Okay, 3 videos in one day. I gotta make up for the months of not doing anything. So today is just gonna be a simple topic, knife safety. Uh, if you I grew up in Alaska, and I used to go to a kind of like a church Boy Scouts thing when I was a kid. They tell us how to avoid bears, how to scare them off, avoid moose, certain deals. A lot of outdoorsy stuff. And I don't fully recall, but I think we might have touched up on a little bit of knives when I was there. But knife safety is a pretty decent topic. It's a little bit different from gun safety. Guns have I want to say, a very greater potential for hurting somebody. Even if you mean to do it on accident, I want to say it's a little bit easier doing that with a gun than it is a knife, unless you just, oh, hey, look at this. Ooh, yeah. Because with guns, it's obviously you could have something in the chamber, you might not know how to use a gun effectively, or something like that. It's easy to hurt somebody, basically. But with knives, it's a little bit safer for the simple fact that you just have one edge, and chances are you're not fully going to hurt somebody badly with it. When I was a kid, I grew up in Alaska. We were taught a lot about knives. Your dad might have a knife, or your grandpa might have like a little old pocket knife he has. But knives they're a useful tool if you're an outdoorsman, or if you do like a job where you cut a lot of things. They're useful tools. But it is also can be very dangerous. I've cut myself plenty of times with a knife. I still do to this day because I'm stupid. But a knife can be dangerous regardless if it's a dull blade. It can just be one of them little rinky-dinky knives you can find at a gas station. One of the ones with like the plastic handle to it, and bad knife. Or it could be, just a very dull blade. But it's not hard to cut somebody, even with that. You don't even have to put a lot of strength into it. And even if it is not, hard to hurt somebody with one, it's better safe than sorry. So one of the best things I can say about knives, we'll start off with a fixed blade. Fixed blades, they don't have a way to fold them, and chances are, if you have a sheath, you're not going to want to undo your belt and slide it off, and then here you go, dude, and hand it to them. You're not going to want to do that because it's just a little bit more effort, and you're lazy, and you're like me, and I don't want to do it. So generally, when you hand somebody a knife, whether it's a fixed blade or if it's a pocket knife that's opened, whatever, you want to hand them kind of something like this. You want to somewhat hold on. I mean, you can hold it on the blade itself, on the dull end, on the back side of the spine, or you can kind of hold it like this, somewhat on the handle, somewhere they can still grab onto it. But this way, when you're handing them a knife, they're not going to grab onto the blade or something like that or hurt themselves. Because there's still a lot of people out in the world that don't know how to handle knives. They'll think, oh, okay, I'm going to grab that and grab it and try to pull it and end up cutting their palm wide open. It's not safe. It's dangerous. So you want to kind of give them to it where they can grab the handle. There's another side of the story of this. I've heard some people say that, oh, you don't want to hand them to it holding, the blade, because then they can just grab it and go, and if you're going to give a knife to somebody that's going to kill you, then, maybe don't give the person the knife. That's the best advice I can give you. So, yeah, you want to give them to like this. That way, when they're grabbing it, they can grab it. Oh, hey, yeah, look at that. A nice little sheen on it, nice little knife, a little curvature. Because if you just hand it to them like this, whether they grab it like this or like this, whatever, they can cut their fingers, cut their wrist, cut their thumb, whatever. And always best to do that. Another good kind of rule in safety is don't have the blade out. Do it agree. If you're like me, and I'll usually like family stuff, I'll be far away, and I'm kind of a loner at family because I'm weird, and I'll either be throwing my knives or I'll be just sharpening them, whatever. You want to be careful with that. If you're around people and you just kind of have your knife out and you're you could accidentally stab somebody, you can flip it around, you can cut yourself, you can do that, you can cut somebody else. It's dangerous. I shouldn't be flipping this around because it's got oil still on it. But doing something like that, you don't really have the knife out because I mean, a lot of people won't even have a knife out unless they're using it for something. But if there's some people out there like me who just kind of, I like having something in my hands, and if I'm not really doing anything, I don't mind doing this. You know what I mean? Just flipping it around my hand. But you don't want to make sure that nobody's really around you if you're doing that, because if you're just standing here and you're flipping the knife around and somebody comes up behind you, they could just run right in, run right into it. Nobody wants to get stabbed, especially at a family reunion. Another good rule of safety of thumb: don't cut towards you. There has been a time or two where a lot of times I have to cut towards me. There's been a few times where it's easier just to kind of like cut it towards you instead of having to flip something around. But it's always a good chance that you want to be careful when you're doing that. You want to be really careful, because if you're cutting something, and a lot of times there will be resistance to the blade, and then sometimes there will be nothing. Like sometimes you could be trying to cut something, and then all of a sudden that resistance is gone, and the blade's going to jump forward, and you have a good chance of cutting your hand. And there's times, or there's been a few jobs where I've had a box, and I've like a box cutter, and I was like kind of having to cut this way towards me. You just want to be careful with that. If you are going to cut towards yourself, which generally rule of thumb, don't do that, but I'm lazy and I don't like having to flip something around 500 times to cut what I need to cut. But you want to be careful with that, because if you ended up getting past that point of resistance, there's a good chance you could cut your hand wide open, and a lot of times if you're holding on to something and you're cutting it, your veins are right there, and that's not a good place you want to be cutting. Another good rule of thumb is careful where your edge is facing. So this is a single edge blade. Sometimes you'll have double edge blades, sometimes you don't. Whatever. But you want to be careful. Like if you're just standing at the campfire or something, waiting for somebody to have the blade, you want to make sure like you're kind of like facing it downwards. Or just be smart, have it in your sheath. But if you're not going to have it in your sheath, have it like aimed downwards. You have it aimed downwards, that's fine. You want to have it aimed downwards, but away from your junk, away from this general area. That way, if you're like, oh yeah, I got an idea, and you're going to stab yourself right here in the leg, and that's not going to be good for you. And if you have it aimed like this way, somebody could run into that, somebody could get, just avoid this general area. Avoid right here, and right here. Because the best way, if you're going to be having your knife out, just have kind of aimed downwards, because you always want to be aware of where the knife is. And you could be, because there's a great chance that you could be like, oh yeah, all right, there we cut it. Yeah, let me see that thing right there. And then somebody walks backwards or something, and you just stab them. Oh, sorry, Gary. Buy you a new butt. Because you just want to be careful where the blade's at, because you never know what's going to happen around you. You want to be aware of your surroundings. You want to be aware of what the people are doing and how you're holding the blade. Because you might not realize it, but you could just be standing here and you might not even realize that you just moved your hand a little bit, and now your knife is aimed directly at your leg. It could be anything. You could be having your arms crossed, and you could be just like, oh man, I got an itchy nose, and you go to itch it, and then you just damn stab yourself in the face. A few of these are a little bit of exaggerations, but they're stupider things have happened to people, or stupider people have done stupider things. Because a knife is a dangerous thing, and there's a few knives that are a lot more dangerous than others. If you get yourself a blade that's thinner and has a sharper point to it, it doesn't take much for somebody could literally just step back and have your knife right there, and they could just step back, and that's going right in. It doesn't take much for certain things to happen. That's why you want to be careful of where people are at, what you're doing, and what you're holding. And especially if you're going to be cutting stuff. You always want to be like, when I'm whittling, I got my stick, I'm just going to sit here, I'm just going to cut it out from this side. There's really no reason for me to need to cut this way. There's no reason. There's nothing. Because the stick, I'll just flip that son of a bitch around. There we go. Start cutting it again. I feel like I'm cutting a giant piece of cheese. Because that's the best way to do it. Certain things you can cut that way, certain things you can't. If you're cutting something like you're opening up a box with a tape on it, you always want to like start from the left side, or whichever dominant hand you are, or the opposite side of your dominant hand, and just kind of go right across. Because if you go this way, it's bad. Because you go that way, because from my experience, tape sucks. It will stick to the blade sometimes, and it will mess up your cut. You want to make sure that you're not holding the blade in a way that could hurt yourself or others. Make sure that you know where the blade is at. Because you want to remember that you have a knife in your hands. Because if you're just, like, oh, man, Gary, them hamburgers looking pretty good there, buddy. You should do something with that one right there. And just, bye, Gary. It's just, you want to be careful of what you're doing. A bit of exaggeration at certain points, but if you're capable with a knife and you are taught kind of some basic lessons of these, because I remember as a kid I would not be allowed a knife until I learned how to hold one and how to use it, how to give it to somebody else, because I can't tell you how many times I used to hear, like, don't hand them like this, because if I hand somebody like this, I have a good chance of stabbing them or having them cut their hands off. You want to make sure that you're giving them something like this. Hold it like that. And if they are those kind of people to just grab that and then stab you with it, well, maybe don't hang around those kind of people. That's the best advice I got for you. And if y'all chitlins are good, I might be willing to do a sword safety deal next time. I've actually done 2 of these videos a long while ago, but I felt like I was very cringy in them, as I very much was a cringy kid. So we will never speak about those, and y'all have a good day. Bye-bye. Adios.